Jeff's done a lot of mechanical on this. And, there's no shop manuals for these things from the teens. So it takes quite a bit of discretion and experience and knowledge to know what you're doing and do it right the first time, because the second time is very expensive.
Wait a minute, you mean this bike is how much?
I would estimate about $50,000.
Who owns it?
It's owned by us, the shop here, Antique Cycle Northwest. And it's a good running bike. And we hope to keep it running for years in the future. If it's treated right, it can be enjoyed as opposed to just to be an static museum piece. And it can be maintained like this, and maybe 100 years from now, somebody else can be enjoying it just like us.
This is from when?
1915.
Unbelievable. Jeff, when you're now this has to be one of probably the more pricier bikes, right?
There's some that have sold for more.
What's it like when there's no manual and Norm is saying, well, we want to make it work, but don't break it?
Well, everything's pretty much self-explanatory on a lot of the old stuff. The engineering behind them, the mechanics, it's basically pretty straightforward, as all internal combustion engines go. We have no shop manuals, as you state, to tell us what the factory set the tappet clearance is at, so we can judge from other machines what that should be. On something like this, it could be on an intake, say 2 to 4 thousandths, and on the exhaust tappet, some of them are as much as 10 thousandths. We can go middle of the road and start with, say, 6, ride it, get it warm through the clearances, and go from there.
So you don't feel badly about working on these? You don't get nervous?
No. Norm does once in a while.
Well, I think mechanic use of the modern stuff would have a lot of trouble. The clearances and tolerances and specifications are quite a bit different than the modern engines, and someone without the background and experience of knowing how these engines differed back in 1915 and how they were built would be a threat to just work on an engine until they gain that background.
Yeah, they could easily ruin some irreplaceable parts. So you pretty much want to know what you're doing before you get into one of these. A good example is the 1937 BMW, which I rode over to the BMW dealership a couple weeks ago, and the mechanic ran out of the shop and says, I don't know anything about those. So there's very few people, I would say, that are fairly knowledgeable about the old stuff.
You both you guys love working on these things?
Oh, yeah. We'd rather mess with this sort of stuff than a new bike.
And we'd like to get them all running, even if we don't get a chance to ride them as frequently as we'd like, but at least even when they're sitting on the floor, we know they're capable. We can put gas in and go down the street. That means they're not dead. They're just resting and waiting for us.
That's very cool.
Okay, compression release.
There we go.
Okay, down. Okay, let the release on. Okay. All right, pull it in. Okay, there's the top. That guy's okay. Let's see.
I gotta get in and see what you're doing. And you can put it in there and test that again.
Yes, I'm checking for proper clearance between the rocker arm and the valve stem.
Okay, I blew that. I'm rolling again whenever you're ready.
I'm checking the clearance between the valve stem and the tappet on Mr. Merkel. Let's start with the larger one, 5 thousandths. It's going through, which is too much. We've got more than 8. Yes.
Why do you love working on these things? And why do you do this? What?
It's a I like working on the old motors. It's a connection with something that's almost alive. It has a heart and it has a soul. It has a heart. The heartbeat could be considered the pistons going up and down, the exhaust note. My favorite thing about the old engines is they have all the insides on the outside, where modern engines are rather antiseptic and clean. Everything's hidden from view, totally silenced. The old engines are a symphony of sounds. Each one has a different, the band. It's like a band almost. You can hear a little click of the tappets. And each one has its own, which could be called a signature, a sound to it. And there's a lot of enjoyment in working on taking something that most people would have given up for dead or junked it, thrown it away, recycled it. And basically what we do is we recycle. We take an old engine and rebuild it, repair it, put it back on the road, and ride it. And then we can experience time travel by doing this. Some people say time travel isn't possible. Well, I disagree with them. When you get on a machine manufactured in 1912 or 1915 and start it up, go down the road, you're experiencing the exact same thing that someone did in 1915. In the proper context, say on a back road, an old gravel dirt road through the woods with nothing around to give you any resemblance of the modern day world, you can actually, in your own mind, you're back in 1912. And it's just not possible any other way, except perhaps maybe in an antique automobile. And again, it wouldn't be the same because you're trapped inside of a cage. The motorcycle opens up a whole new world to you. Everything is right there. There's no need to roll the window down. It's already been rolled down for you. Eliminates the planning process.
That sounds like it kind of simplifies.
It's almost, trying to describe riding one of these is pretty much impossible. It's almost a Zen-like state of mind. Nirvana? I don't know. There's just nothing else like it in the world. In most people's lives, they're so boring and they spend them in their cars. Never get out and really experience anything like this. So to me, it's an honor to be able to work on these. And then again, the best part, of course, is actually riding them down the road.
And these things represent a period of innovation in America during the teens, when the motorcycle was brand new and things hadn't homogenized yet. And out of over 200 makes of American motorcycles, there was almost 200 different designs. This thing here is underneath the seat is a rear suspension. I guess you can call it a monoshock, and many people feel the Japanese invented the monoshock in the 70s. Well, America had it back in 1913. But this is just one example of kind of a very exciting time in our history.
The same with the front fork is telescopic, which some people think was designed by the Germans and or the British in the 30s, but Flying Merkel had it way back when. The fork telescopes up and down here.
So in a way, it's fair. I'm going to turn off for a second. Set perspective. This is in the teens?
This is in the teens, and actually a lot was done before the teens. 4-valve cylinder heads, overhead valves, overhead cam engines. All of this had been designed, built, and run way before the Japanese automobiles came out with this sort of thing. Indian Motorcycle Company had invented the 4-valve cylinder head. It was used on their board track racers. Indian had electric starting in 1914. They had rear suspension in 1914. They were basically years ahead of their time. In fact, that's what put a lot of these companies out of business. They built a very well-built product, and it was very expensive to manufacture. World War I came along, and the main thing was Henry Ford's Model T put a lot of them out of business. But the innovation...
How come?
Henry Ford made it so his workers could afford to buy an automobile, and he doubled their pay to $5 a day. And the price of a Model T Ford, I think, got as low as $235, and which was basically the same price as a Harley-Davidson or an Indian motorcycle at that time. So the motorcycle evolved from being transportation into more of a sport thing, where the family man wanted the automobile. And the motorcycle was a frivolous purchase to a lot of Americans then, and this spelled the end for a lot of really good motorcycle manufacturers.
Yeah, but there are few. And how many of these old bikes, if
The survival rate on a lot of old machines is pretty much unknown because there could be one in somewhere that no one knows about. Some of these machines, there's as few as 3 known to exist. Others, a good example would be 1913 model Indians. Their production was around 35,000 motorcycles in 1913. And out of that number, a surprising amount are still around. The rest of them, there's some that are known, that say 70 examples are known to exist, but a lot of them are down to a mere handful. This is a good example, this Flying Merkel.
What about Norm?
Yeah, you know, they had scrap drives in this country during the war, and to be patriotic, no one saw the need to have maybe a 20, 30, 40-year-old piece of junk around, so a lot of them went in the scrap drives.
This is World War II?
World War II, bring a tear to your eyes to think about. But I would estimate right now in the hands of collectors or enthusiasts, there might be a couple thousand, all total, of different makes of all types. They are getting a little more pricey nowadays in terms of our ability to have leisure time and leisure money and get involved in this thing.
And you're the only one of your kind?
In the Northwest, we're the one. There are other places throughout the country that do the same kind of thing, although most of the activity is in the 40s or 50s, what we call a vintage or classic era. It's a very, very small, limited market that goes back to the teens. Very few, very pricey.
They're still
Or might as well set it at 4,000. Leave this off here.
That's better, right?
Doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter?
No, once you start with something like that,
Leave it
yes,
on.
I could probably just leave it on.
Okay.
Won't make too much difference. At least that way the sound,
No.
the acoustics will be exactly the same for the whole scene.
A little, yeah, a little more will be okay.
No, you made the change.
All right.
I like it. Recording?
Sure. My agent will send you the bill.
Put oil in it so it...
This one kind of tricks you with the spring.
Yeah, you've got to
Maybe compress the small spring.
make allowance for the spring.
Why don't you compress the spring for me while I check it here?
Okay.
There's quite a bit of drag still.
I'm going to show them how to oil it. Fake it, I don't think that thing turns down. It doesn't verbalize when you oil it.
One more turn. One more slight turn and we should have it. Let's try it there. It's a little excessive still.
Let me start with the fuel bump over here.
Okay. I think the drag might be a little, why don't you double check that for me? I'll compress here.
Yeah, a little tight. It's
Little?
okay. It's okay for now.
Okay.
Let's go ahead and oil
A
the
shot of oil to the rocker bushing.
modern oil system here. Okay.
That should be
We
good.
also need to start up the limited.
Okay. Let's see if it goes. We have gas and oil.
It's already.
Okay. So pull it out or in here?